Kicking it off, we head to episode 118, where the crew sat down with one of the pioneers in New York City nightlife, Bill Spector. The fellas asked him about an infamous incident that happened with P. Diddy at one of his parties at Mac Daddy's, and he explains how the whole situation went down.
What happened at one of your parties, Mac Daddy's? It was supposed to be a huge party, right?
That was like going to be like the biggest party Manhattan ever had, like a hip hop party.
It actually was. I mean, we did almost 2,000 people, 2,500 people before there was an infamous fight. Mm-hmm. We had a half pipe in there on stage. We had all skaters skating in there.
Oh, wow.
And we decided we wanted to do old school hip hop.
Mm-hmm. Even at that time, old school hip hop?
Yeah, they were playing like old back in the day jam. Stretch was playing, and he had his...
Like Schoolie D, LL Cool J, Run DMC, shit like that.
What year was this?
95, 96, maybe.
And that was when we coined old school as like kind of that old school era. Because I remember it was like old school was specifically 80s, like hip hop. Now old school is like a whole bunch of shit.
It's old school now.
But like in the 90s, we would say old school was like audio too, and all like that was old school and
exactly.
shit like that. And then what was this fight? Can you go into it a little bit or no?
I'll go into it. I mean, everybody's.
From what I heard, it was like Puff Daddy.
It was kind of it was kind of Puffy versus the world at that point.
This tattoo artist named Rene.
Yes, Rene Soto.
Yeah.
Who was down with the Booyah Kids. He was a New York downtown kid. Him and Puffy were sleeping with the same girls, and Puff came in with the crew. He was already big at that point. But he had, worked with us. We were cool with him, but he wasn't really in our scene. He was in the more hip hop scene, our scene. He would come maybe once a month to our things. And he came and I guess he tried Rene a couple times. And that kid Rene is the calmest kid in the world. And he just kind of walked away from the fight. Next thing I know, a fight just erupts in the club. The whole club is swaying. There's like 2,000 people in there. We had a young Leonardo DiCaprio. We had it was like just so many people. It was like, I was never into celebrity, so I didn't really know who was there, but I would hear subsequently. Yeah. Because I'm an extrovert introvert. Like I can hide in the corner or be this social at the same time. It depends in my mood. Like I'm happy never to like speak, just sit there and like look into space as I know what's going on.
I feel you.
And this fight happens. Puffy's like. It ends up Puffy's on the losing side, but also, the downtown kids are majority there. Puffy's there with like 6-10 people at the most. And Rene was there with like 200 people probably at his back. It was a one-on-one fight, then it became a group fight, then the skaters jump off the stage and they start hitting Puffy in the head with the boards.
Oh, wow. Shit.
And,
this is nuts.
And somebody hits the wall. Harold Hunter hears the explosion. Rest in peace to Harold Hunter. And it makes a noise echoing in this whole club, Irving Plaza, which wasn't a club, it was a concert hall. And he hits the wall like 4 more times. And security from the space is union security, doesn't know anything about our club. Our mentality, they won't let us bring our own security, and who knows how to handle everybody.
Right.
And all of a sudden, they're like gunshots. And now you hear 2,000 people charging towards 2 doors. As we get outside, another person that, Puff starts screaming at somebody. He's like already been beat up. Like, he lost on the losing end. And he starts screaming at somebody from downtown, and they jump him again.
Jesus.
The next day, I get phone calls from like their camp, from the bad boy camp, from Jessica. We need to get a hold of these Booyah kids. Give us Renee's number. And I'm like, I call Rene up, and I'm like, Rene, they want your number. He goes, give it to them.
Oh, wow.
Shit. He's like, round 3, fight.
They contact him. He already has the Booyah kids in town that next day. They went and met with Puffy. Everything was
squash.
Yeah.
Wow, man. I didn't know all that.
The one thing I will say about Puffy in fights, he definitely handles very, very well, even on the defeat side. Not in a good way or a bad way. He's obviously a good business guy. I've seen a lot of he's been in multiple altercations, and he figures it out at the end where to make it amenable to everybody. Not monetarily, but where you can go forward, where he's going to show up again, or they're going to show up again, and everybody's not going to be shooting at each other.
Oh man.
Damn, that's nuts.
He definitely is a astute businessman on multitude of levels.
Yeah.
At that time with like Puffy and before he was with Bad Boy, he was a promoter, and all of these
He was with Jessica, you know, and he did a bunch of stuff with us. She did a party with him, Daddy's house, where she kind of gave him his clout.
Wow.
Yeah.
He was amazing. He knew every girl. He was driven. He told me something in 1990, and you know, he told me one day, he goes, "Look at me," and we were always close, and he goes, "I'm be the richest and you ever met in the world," and he goes, "You know what I'm saying?" And I looked at him. I was like, "Okay." And he goes, No, I'm dead serious. So I always look at him, and when we have a conversation, I go, "I remember that time you told me that. You're pretty close."
Like watching him and his come up, and Bad Boy era, Craig Mack and Biggie Smalls, even right before when he was at Uptown with Mary J. Blige. All those artists just totally involved with the parties. They were always out.
Well,
and everything,
Mary
right?
J. came a little bit. Big, we didn't let him in because he brought in too much of a Brooklyn posse. We did let him in. We didn't let him in. Andre Harrell was always in. Russell came. You know, at that point, they liked much more the bougie shit than our shit. But they still came to our thing because they would see what's bubbling with the kids 5-10 years younger than them. Mm-hmm. But it was definitely the era of like Puff and Jay and QTip would come to the parties. I knew him from Queens. You know, we always were close. And then, you know, the De La kids were around, the Jungle Brothers.
Wow.
And all of them, you know,
so crazy.
they performed all the time. Like I take for granted that you could get a performance out of somebody for free or for on the strength or pushing their album. Like it made no sense. Like later on, like as I was doing parties in the 2000s or now, and an artist tells me I want 50,000, 100,000, 200,000. I was like, people don't do that for free. Like in a very naive sort of way, not in a mean sort of way. Like I'm getting over.
Did you know how special it was though? Like
not a clue.
No. It was just like they were just homies, and you were just like,
or it was just
living
that. Yeah, we were just living it. We didn't understand how great we
Right.
had it until one day it was all gone.
It's so
Like having
crazy.
Leonardo DiCaprio at your parties, nuts, man. Right before Titanic, it's crazy.
Did you ever have like maybe a real memorable night, an epic night of a performance that you'll never forget?
I mean, so many of them were just like where you'd have like 6 of them, like the greatest rappers of that point, just be on stage, and you'd just be like, how did this just happen?
Yeah.
Because there was no threatening the sound guy. It was like, because I would see all that, like when I would go to concerts of those, you know, like, and they would like be beefing with people, and in our parties, they would just be getting on the mic, whether it was choppy or great, and even sometimes when the DJs would be annoyed, they'd be like, dude, get these guys off.
Right.
And I think back now, and I'm like, get them off ever?
So like when that happened, like they'd be at home, like let's say, I don't know, Tribe would be there, and they'd be like, yo, was it like we're gonna drop an album? Can we just like jump on, or can we push this?
More like we are dropping an album, and we're gonna get on and do
Yeah.
3 songs.
And then from your perspective, you're like, oh, cool, like just that.
Truth be told, Stretch handled a lot of that,
Yeah.
or when we used Clark Kent, you know, a lot of them dealt with that. I was dealing with the drama at the door, the money, and dealing with fragile people's egos, not performers. Like you know, people. I waited outside for 20 minutes, like say a Puffy or you know or even a drug dealer that feelings were hurt. Why my boy stuck outside? Like, and I'll be like, let me figure this out. Let me go outside, pop my head out, get threatened by 50 people, pop my head back in.
And like supermodels and models were always at these parties, pretty much.
They came all the time. They were very interested in what we were doing, you know, and we were interested in them.
Yeah.
Of course.
Because I remember, I think I came up like when I started, when some of the clubs were actually letting me in, and it was like I was actually able to see some of this shit. Was like the Rockefeller era, and I started seeing like these like you know Sports Illustrated supermodels hanging out with like Rockefeller, and then to be like Aaliyah. It was like such a weird, and then Mark Ronson would be DJing, and I'm like, yo, this is like the most eclectic room of like just like artistic, creative people.
Well, he was
know?
the second coming for us. Like
Yeah.
after Stretch, he came and he had a band called the Whole Earth Mamas, and he was like, let me DJ, let me open. And I was doing a party at the Grand called True, and he was like, come on, let me open. And he was like, I can bring people from Uptown, and I'll be honest that I was a little skeptical because he really wasn't in the vein of like where we were. And he opened and he was good, even though he was hated on by a lot of the older DJs. Really, really, really hated on.
Why they were hating on him? Because they just felt like he came from.
They wanted to do the party.
Yeah, and they also, thought that I was hiring him because he's a pretty kid. But his musical thing, he really came up quick, and he brought people, and he was amazing, and he actually was really good for us, and always stayed the same person, minus a couple little nuances.
Did he try to like hide his British accent? I used to hear that all the time with Mark.
He never had it, and I'm back in the days. I never noticed it.
Somebody asked him about it when I was with them personally, and which may be true. Listen, his Roman Jones, who's his half brother, has one. His parents,
Roman Jones.
yes, his
in
half
Miami?
stepbrother. Yeah.
Oh wow.
And
I didn't know that.
they have it. His parents have it, and he was like, I just suppressed it a lot more. And then as I started sitting with these people, I was like, it came out. So listen, that could be true, and all good. But I can say one thing: now he still takes the phone call, the email, the text, come hang out. He's pretty much to me. I mean, I haven't done any business with him. The same person. Looks a little different.
Right.
But acts the same.
If you want to check the full episode of this clip, click the video on the left. Or if you'd like to continue watching more road clips, click the video on the right. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page and get updated on new clips and videos from R.O.A.D Podcast throughout the week. Peace.